Alex, I spent 3 hours yesterday picking plastic spider webs out of a printer nozzle with a pair of dental tools because I thought I could shortcut a PETG temperature tower. It felt like trying to perform heart surgery on a robot that was actively trying to spit in my eye.
Well, welcome to the cutting edge of hobbyist frustration. Why do we do this to ourselves? Seriously, you have a shop full of gorgeous chisels and a lathe that actually works, yet you're hunched over a tiny heat block like you're searching for buried treasure.
It's the siren song of the print button. You think it's going to be easy. Additive manufacturing, they call it. Just stack some melted Lego spit and call it a day. But if you pick the wrong plastic for the job, you're basically just making expensive trash that's going to melt the second it sees a sunbeam or crack if you look at it too hard.
Precisely why we're here today. We are settling the great filament debate. It's the big three: PLA, ABS, and PETG. I feel like every maker I talk to has a different religion when it comes to these. One person says PLA is for toys, another says ABS is a toxic nightmare, and then there's the PETG crowd who thinks it's the holy grail.
It's a minefield. I remember one of my first real functional prints. It was a bracket for the cup holder in my old truck. I printed it in PLA because it looked pretty and was easy to work with. Left the truck in the driveway in July, came back 2 hours later, and the thing had sagged like a Dali painting. Just a sad, green puddle of broken dreams.
There's that dry wit, a sad puddle of broken dreams. Okay, so let's save our listeners from the dolly melt scenario. Let's start with the gateway drug, PLA.
PLA, polylactic acid. It's the golden child of the 3D printing world. It's made from cornstarch or sugarcane, so it smells like a pancake house when it's printing instead of an industrial chemical spill. If you're just starting out, this is your best friend. It doesn't warp much, it sticks to the bed like it's been glued there by divine intervention, and the detail is crisp.
But let's be honest, it's a bit of a glass cannon, isn't it? It's stiff, but it's brittle.
Spot on. It's got great tensile strength, which is a fancy way of saying it doesn't want to stretch. But if you drop a PLA part on a concrete floor, it shatters like a dropped tea saucer. And like I found out with my truck bracket, its heat resistance is, well, it starts getting soft at 60 degrees Celsius. That's barely a hot day in a closed car.
So PLA is for the look at this cool thing I made projects. Decorative stuff, prototypes, things that live on a bookshelf.
Mostly. It's great for architectural models or jigs in the shop that aren't under a ton of stress. But if the part needs to live outside or hold up a heavy shelf, move on.
Which brings us to the big bad of the old school, ABS.
A BS is the stuff Legos are made of. Acrylonitrile butadienestyrene. Say that 3 times fast after a beer. This is the stuff that can actually handle some abuse. It's tough, it can handle heat up to 100 degrees Celsius, and you can smooth it with acetone vapor to make it look like it was injection molded.
But let's talk about the cost of using it. And I don't mean the price per spool. I'm talking about the headache of actually getting a print to finish.
Absolute nightmare if you aren't prepared. A BS is like a moody teenager. It hates drafts. If a gentle breeze hits the part while it's printing, the layers will pull apart like a cheap sub sandwich. You need an enclosure, a heated bed that gets hot enough to fry an egg, and you have to deal with the fumes. It smells like a burning tire factory.
I remember you telling me about your cardboard box phase for ABS.
Oh, don't remind me. I tried to build a custom enclosure out of a refrigerator box and some duct tape. I almost set the garage on fire trying to keep the ambient temp high enough so the base of my print wouldn't curl up like a dead spider. It's a fickle beast, but when it works, the parts are indestructible compared to PLA.
So if someone is building, say, a housing for an engine sensor or something that's going to get kicked around in a workshop, ABS is the play?
It's a solid choice, yeah, but honestly, these days there's a middle child that's stealing everyone's lunch money. PETG.
PETG. Polyethylene terephthalate glycol. The stuff soda bottles are made of, plus a little G to make it printable. This is supposed to be the best of both worlds, right?
That's the marketing pitch. Higher heat resistance than PLA, about 80 degrees, very tough, and it's chemically resistant. You can leave it out in the sun and it won't degrade. It's also got this give to it. It's not brittle. If you stress it, it bends before it breaks.
But you mentioned the spider webs earlier. It's not exactly a set it and forget it material, is it?
No, it's sticky. It's like printing with hot honey. It wants to cling to the nozzle. It strings across gaps like a spider on caffeine. And if you don't get your retraction settings dialed in, your part looks like it's wearing a fuzzy sweater. Plus, it loves moisture. You leave a roll of PETG out in the humid air for a couple of days, and it'll pop and hiss in the hot end like a tiny bowl of Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies from hell. Okay, let's break this down for the folks at home. If I'm making a custom clip for my garden hose outdoors, what's the move?
PETG, hands down. It'll handle the UV rays and the temperature swings without cracking or melting.
What if I'm printing a detailed miniature for a tabletop game?
PLA. The detail is unmatched, and since the Dragon isn't going to be sitting in a hot engine bay, you don't need the durability.
And the heavy-duty drone frame?
That's where I'd go ABS, or even better, its cousin ASA. It's got the impact resistance to handle a rapid, unscheduled disassembly against a tree.
You know, we talk about these materials like they're just options on a menu, but there's a real learning curve to each one. What's the biggest shop floor mistake you see people making when they switch between them?
Not cleaning the bed. People think a universal bed surface works for everything. You print PLA on PEI, it's great. You try to print PETG on that same surface without a release agent, and you might as well have welded the plastic to the plate. I've seen people rip chunks of glass right out of their heated bed because the PETG refused to let go. It's like a bad breakup. Sometimes you need a little hairspray or glue stick to keep things civil.
Is that the pro tip then? Glue stick is the peacekeeper of the 3D printing world?
It's the diplomat. And speed. Everybody wants to print at Mach 1, but with materials like PETG, you have to slow down, let the plastic find its home. If you rush it, you get poor layer adhesion, and your indestructible part splits in half the first time you put a screw in it.
Speaking of screws, I saw a video where they talked about fuzzy skin settings for these materials. Does that actually help with strength, or is it just for looks?
It's mostly aesthetic, hides the layer lines so it doesn't look like a 3D print. But if you want real strength, you look at your wall count and your orientation. A part is only as strong as the bond between the layers. If you print a coat hook standing straight up, the weight of the coat is trying to peel the layers apart. If you print it on its side, the plastic strands are doing the heavy lifting.
It's like wood grain.
Precisely. You wouldn't carve a tenon with the grain running the wrong way, or it'll just snap off like a dry twig. 3D printing is just digital carpentry with melted plastic.
Digital carpentry. I like that. So looking ahead, we're seeing all these crazy composites now. Carbon fiber, PLA, metal filaments. Are these just gimmicks for people with too much money?
Some of them are just sparkle and shine, but the carbon fiber stuff, man, that changes the game. It makes the part stiffer and hides the seams beautifully, but it also wears out a brass nozzle faster than a hot knife through butter. You need a hardened steel nozzle, or you'll find your 0.4 millimeters hole has turned into a 1 millimeters gaping wound by the end of the spool.
It sounds like the tuition for learning this stuff never really ends.
It doesn't. Every time I get cocky and think I've mastered the settings, a new roll of premium filament shows up and reminds me who's actually in charge. But that's the joy of the shop, isn't it? If it were easy, we'd just buy it at the store.
Truth. Okay, so give us the Tiger Den takeaway. If someone is standing in the aisle, or more likely, scrolling through a website looking at these 3 filaments, what's the one question they should ask themselves?
Ask yourself, where is this part going to live and how much is it going to hurt when it breaks? If it lives on a desk and doesn't matter much, grab the PLA. If it lives in the sun or carries a load, go PETG. If it needs to survive a crash or high heat and you've got the ventilation to handle the stank, go ABS.
And maybe buy a glue stick, just in case.
Buy a case of glue sticks and maybe some dental picks. You'll thank me when the honey spit hits the fan.
That's a wrap on our material deep dive. Next time, maybe we'll talk about why your husband's functional prints are always just upgrades for the 3D printer itself.
Hey, I feel attacked. Those cable chains are vital for internal aesthetics. See you in the shop, folks.